Welcome back to another episode of Long Gray Lessons. In today's episode, we are honored to share the extraordinary journey of Shabir Kabiri. Born and raised in Pakistan, Shabir's early life was shaped by the complexities of growing up in a country grappling with the consequences of prolonged conflict, which is in Afghanistan. Yet amidst these challenges, he nurtured a dream that transcended the boundaries of his homeland. Shabir's path took a pivotal turn when he's accepted as one of the few international cadets from Afghanistan to attend the prestigious United States Military Academy at West Point in 2012. At West Point, Shabir excelled, embodying the values of duty, honor country, and upon graduation, made the selfless decision to return back to Afghanistan. There he applied his skills to contribute to his country's development, working on critical infrastructure and cybersecurity projects, demonstrating an unwavering commitment to progress and stability. However, in August 2021, during the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, Shabir found himself amidst the chaos, making a harrowing escape to ensure the safety of his family and himself. Now residing in the U.S., Shabir's journey is a powerful narrative of courage, adaptation, and the indomitable spirit of hope. Join us as we delve into the life of Shabir Kabiri. Welcome to the show, Shabir.
Thank you. That was a great introduction. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited.
We are honored to have you here, and would love to just jump right into it if you don't mind.
Sure.
So one of the questions that I generally ask on these interviews, and I get a different response every time, is what was one of the few memories that you can recall in your childhood that kind of shaped who you are today?
Sure. So I was born in Pakistan. My family had immigrated to Pakistan in the 80s, given the civil unrest in Afghanistan. So I grew up there, good childhood. With one of the memories that come to my mind is always my brother, Shahir. He's 2 years younger than me. So we would play and study every day. We would play cricket, not baseball, every day. And that I think that to me was this bond of camaraderie and this closeness that I had with him and trust. And then in 2001, when the United States invaded Afghanistan to topple the Taliban government, we returned back to Afghanistan. And then, so all this time I was immigrant in Pakistan. But then when I came to Afghanistan, suddenly I had this sense of ownership. Okay, this is my country. And it's starting to feel different. Although we were comfortable in Pakistan, but it was always this idea that we are temporary here. So then in Afghanistan, I would go to school, and before class every day we would have assembly, and in the assembly they would play the national anthem of Afghanistan. Every single day I would get chills when I hear the national anthem. And so that was one aspect of motivation to think about military. And finally, my grandfather, who unfortunately I did not get to meet because he was killed on duty. He was an NCO in the old Afghan army when we had a king. In fact, the last king of Afghanistan, King Zahir Shah. So he was the driver of the king when the king was traveling in the northern provinces. So my dad would tell all his stories to me and how his character, he had an unwavering character during his time of service. And I think all those were enough motivation to make me apply for the Afghan Academy in Kabul, Afghanistan.
Wow. So I want to kind of just take it back a little bit just to unpack some of these things. Could you share how you end up in Pakistan to begin with? Because ethnically, you're Afghani.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, my citizenship is Afghan. The way citizenship in Afghanistan and in general in that region of the world works, although I was born in Pakistan, but I'm not a citizen of Pakistan. It doesn't work like that. And the way I'm a citizen of Afghanistan, in Afghanistan you derive citizenship through ancestry. So my father and mother are Afghan citizens. That entitles me to citizenship.
Okay.
And yeah, so we were I grew 10 years. I was in my early 10 years of childhood was in Pakistan, and then when the time was right to come back to our country, and that's how we returned.
Understood. So within those 10 years, in terms of assimilating, you had mentioned it was kind of like a temporary place for you and your family. Um, did you ever feel out of place at all?
Certainly, because even not so much because it was early childhood. You
Right.
were just obsessed with playing, and cartoons were big at the time. There was no cell phone, so it was TV.
Sure.
In school, but still, you would notice. Although I had a lot of Pakistani friends, and I would speak fluent Urdu with them, and that's where I picked Urdu. But still, you would notice, oh, okay, I'm not a citizen, and my home is in Afghanistan. So that was always with me during early years as well.
Okay. So I see kind of a theme here, which kind of leads us to the next question, which is relocating from Pakistan to Afghanistan and then eventually to the United States, where, you were able to attend the United States Military Academy. What was your motivation to attend the United States Military Academy? And then thereafter, how did you navigate this new environment being in the United States?
Sure. So as I said, those early childhood memories and events led me to apply for the National Military Academy of Afghanistan. And I spent there about 2 years studying, and I was just a regular Afghan cadet there. I had no idea about West Point. I did not know. I had not heard about it. But interestingly, that exact year, 2011, when I joined the Afghan Academy, West Point and Afghan Academy had an agreement to allow Afghan cadets to apply for West Point. And when they announced that, and again, I could take a little tangent here, and I feel like this is something a lot of people, Afghans and other uh, folks growing up in underdeveloped countries could relate, that you always have this belonging that this is not enough. This environment that I'm in, it's missing. And at the time I grew up, there wasn't social media. My exposure was still TV, movies. So I knew there's more to the world, and I need to get out there. And that was enough for me to, like, I heard about the scholarship, so I jumped in and applied. And then I started to learn about West Point, and I was amazed with all the history that it has and how much huge role it played in the history of United States, and still plays to this day.
And there was one other Afghan grad from the Academy, class of '09, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Did you have any interface with him? Did you communicate with him at all? If he had returned and to learn more about the Academy?
Correct. I only knew about him, and he when he graduated, he returned back to country, and he was working at National Security Council of Afghanistan. But unfortunately, maybe I would still say early days of social media. You didn't have LinkedIn, Facebook, so I could not reach out to him. I know it was early days of social media because
Sure.
I was using Yahoo Messenger to talk to my home, to my family,
That's a
and
throwback.
and then we transitioned to Skype, and then transitioned to Facebook Messenger, and then WhatsApp.
That's right. That's crazy. I guess in terms of receiving your acceptance to West Point, and was that the first time that you traveled out of country outside of leaving Pakistan? And what was that experience like coming to the US and kind of being exposed to this new world?
Yeah, yes, that was my first time. And let me take time here and thank everyone who played a huge role in my acceptance to West Point. So the way it worked at the Afghan Academy, when in after the new government was established in Afghanistan, the Republic, they were looking to establish an Afghan Academy, and they were looking at various models. They looked at West Point, they looked at Sandhurst in Great Britain, and they looked at Turkey, and they ended up deciding that we will model based on West Point. So the Afghan Academy was very similar in terms of curriculum and all other programs from West Point. And in that regard, we had advisors. There was a rotation program of West Point faculty rotating to Afghanistan. So when I joined the Afghan Academy, then I got to meet the American advisors, some of them from West Point, and they helped me every step of the way because, I mean, you know this, how hard it is to apply and prepare for West Point.
That's right.
And me, someone who had no idea and had never thought about preparation. So they paved the way for it. When I got the letter of acceptance, that was first time leaving country to, I guess, travel internationally. It was exciting, but also very challenging in a way that I did not have any frame of reference or no experience to draw from. Every step of the way was a new thing, and it was learning on the go. And then starting West Point, but every step of the way I had support, which enabled me to continue the journey.
What were your initial expectations, and then actually facing it in reality? How did that turn out?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think the answer goes both ways. Where when you come to US, for like when I came first time, somehow the expectations are met and somehow not. The way it met, because although inaccurate, but I did have some idea from Hollywood how this country looks. Not accurate at all, but still like how the traffic is looking, how the airports work, how the taxis, the hotels. So it felt similar, familiar, and we loved Hollywood movies, like growing up watching all the movies. But then what was unexpected to know the diversity in this country. I think from the movies it was mostly a certain type of lifestyle, which is all about entertainment and fun and having a good time, where you come here and notice like people are diverse here, different backgrounds and struggle. And it's just like any other country, people work hard here.
Love that. So I guess when you got to the academy, I'm sure you also experienced your fair share of challenges in terms of, I don't know if it's the language, the cultural differences, food, you mentioned diversity, or even just the lifestyle of now going into something that's a little bit more rigorous, whether it's physical fitness, military culture, and also the academics. Can you share some of the lessons learned during your time at the academy?
Absolutely. I would like to talk about that because there were challenges. So yeah, West Point is tough, and then on top of that, if you're an international cadet, and then I think international cadet as from Afghanistan, because see, I came to West Point in 2012. That was still the era of the surge when President Obama sent a huge number of troops there, and that sort of. So I every day that I would walk around campus, I mean, we would have the flag on our right shoulder. In my case, it was the Afghan flag. I felt that I represent the nation, and that just put more responsibility on me and pushing me to help myself to higher standards and everything we would do there. And language barrier was there too. So freshman year, plebe year, and I would say half of sophomore, yuck year, I would have a dictionary open and then do the readings. So that was just another level of challenge because we had a lot of readings to do. And then, but everything got better as I progressed through the years of West Point. And again, I cannot emphasize the support that played the role for me to do this. First and foremost, my family. Although they were away thousands miles, but I would talk to them regularly every day, and they would motivate me. They would tell me it's okay, and talk me through the problems that I was facing. And you're right. So cultural problems, you're navigating to learning about cultural differences, and then the West Point program itself is very tough, academics, and military, physical. And then at some aspect of homesickness, you miss your family and home, and you don't have your regular support network. So my family and then the West Point faculty and staff, incredible. I think we need to really emphasize how amazing they are, how they are noticing when somebody is having issues, and not just faculty and staff, your whole chain of command, which is your fellow upper class cadets. So all of them, although the challenges were monumental, but I had at the same time great support, which led to me completing the program and graduating.
And we'll touch on this later, but those relationships are so strong, the bond is so strong that it'll help you later on as well.
Absolutely.
And we'll absolutely touch on that. What is one misconception that one might have about an international cadet at West Point? Because normally, like, we talk to a lot of grads, former service members, but it's very rare to have a perspective from an international graduate. So what would be something that you could dispel or maybe share more that someone might not know about the international experience?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I don't know how accurate this would be, but this comes to mind so I think there's this perception and an expectation in the US that you just know, you need, like, or this idea that when we are, for example, a group of friends is sitting, everyone is talking about something, this idea that you also know about this, and maybe there's a lot of Americans know about internationally about the globe, but still it's somehow and I think United States is such a big country, a diverse country in itself, 50 states. So as an American growing up as a kid, you need to wrap your head around 50 states and its diversity, and then think about other countries. Where when I grew up in Afghanistan, all I need to do was, okay, Afghanistan and then the rest of the world. Then so I was so much, that's how I was thinking about other countries. So before I get too much into details, so the misconception is this, that an international cadet may have a lot of gaps in cultural, and especially if someone is coming from underdeveloped countries, educational, although that'll be slightly different and handled through academics, and when you have great faculty, they notice that and they give you support. But in terms of group of friends, the misconception would be that I guess he knows, or he or she knows, and so they would follow the story what we are talking about, or if we better talk about sports, culture, or movies, where that poor person has no idea what you're talking about and just listening and trying to catch up. But again, it all works out as both parties communicate more, and I think that is how the growth happens from both sides. As an international cadet, I learned those people, those of my friends who were close to me at West Point and got to observe, they could definitely say that how I transformed 180 degrees from my day one to day end, all positive. And I'm sure, I hope so, that with those that I interact considerably, I was able to contribute positively. So I think that's how growth happens.
So a very formidable experience in terms of growth at the academy. Could you remind us again what you studied, and then upon graduation and returning back to Afghanistan, what you ended up doing with either a degree or that next phase?
Yeah, in my case, I studied electrical engineering, and again, at West Point, we have option to choose majors. Again, something new for me, because in my country, you get major based on your performance, the scores that you get in your SAT. So I was like, oh, great, I have all these options. But then I was thinking to myself, okay, what would help the Afghan army? And I decided, I do know, talking to people and spending my time at the Afghan Academy, that there's need in signal corps in the Afghan army, in the intelligence and communication, data communication side. Afghan military they're fierce fighters. very courageous people. So I thought, okay, it doesn't make sense for me to go do infantry because I'm not good enough as them, but I do felt the need to do something technical. So I did electrical engineering with the focus on telecommunications. And then my goal was to return and serve in the Signal Corps. After graduation, I did return, and as per normal procedure, I went into reserves because when international students come back from their country of duty after completing their education, they go to reserves and then they wait for active duty. Unfortunately, in my case, given the situation in 2016 was starting to deteriorate, and that even had reflected in the Ministry of Defense of Afghanistan, issues of mismanagement and issues of just not able to track the processes. I just waited on that my reserve position, and my paperwork never got through to get me to active duty.
Wow.
And while I was waiting, I said, well, I have a double E degree from West Point, and it's a very great degree. West Point is a great institution academically. And I was thinking, okay, how else I could serve Afghanistan? Then I said, well, the telecommunication industry, which has been one of the private industry in Afghanistan, and also it plays a huge role lifting people up, because in rural areas, if you bring internet and connectivity to those kids, they are exposed with, first of all, they have good, easy access to education, but then, it opens their mind, and they learn about all these opportunities. They may even be learning coding and so forth, get jobs. So that's why, I joined the telecom industry and started working there as an engineer. And to me, that was meaningful that I was still able to contribute. It was not just for the purpose of getting a job, because we had a family business in Afghanistan, which was doing very good, and I could have just joined the business, but I said, no, I need to if I could not put my military trainings and education in service of the country, I can certainly put the academic trainings that I've got.
Where does that value of service, where's that instilled from? Was that at the academy? Was that before the academy, in terms of living very selflessly and trying to contribute to the welfare of others?
I would say that is a personal question to every person to answer. For me, it was before, but it definitely got honed in and polished at the academy. As I truly, and thinking back at the academy, like what if the question is what were the valuable lessons learned from the academy? Certainly all the great military training that we received, academic training and physical training. But to me, what has always stood up in these 8 years or so after graduation is, one, the honor code, the way that it's so succinct, and a cadet will not lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate those who do. And how it's just easy to remember.
Yeah.
And then the Army values that are the same as West Point values. So those 4 years felt like living those values every day. And I think the uniqueness of the West Point program is that the whole program is designed in a way to instill those values into you. So you have really internalized those values, and not only you have developed so that you have to do this because you're expected to do it or it's the right thing. You really want to do it because, you joined the military or West Point having some motivation to serve some noble cause and goal, and then you come to academy, and the academy then teaches you, okay, you have this great cause, and now let me give you the tool. So once you graduate academy, you always have this moral compass. We both know how much in every classroom, in every training setup, this idea of having a moral compass that could help you make decisions were emphasized.
Yeah.
And after graduation, at the time it wouldn't make sense to me much, but after graduation it definitely made sense a lot that, wow, that was the most valuable thing that I learned from West Point, that I have this strong and solid moral compass that no matter what decision, what problem is thrown to me, and I can put it in this machinery and still make a decision which is right or the best that we could do given the situation.
And given how the landscape and the situation kind of unfolded at 2016 at the time, with a lot of uncertainty, you were still able to use the tools that you learned at the academy to be able to kind of navigate that and be able to continue moving forward in a different capacity, even though it wasn't in a military setting. So fast forward a little bit more. I read that you were a Fulbright scholar. Could you share more about that experience with us?
Sure, yes. So a Fulbright scholarship, a quick background to the program. It's a great program. It has a great history. It's run by U.S. Embassy in a country. So in my case, the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan, ran it. And so when I was working in the telecom industry and the Army option did not work for me. So I said, well, and I talked to my friends and mentors, and I said, well, the good next sensible thing for me to do is continue my education so I could be in a better position of returning back and do leadership in civilian capacity or in any other capacity I could. So I applied for the scholarship. It had a rigorous program, a year and a half long application process, but thankfully it all worked out. I would say Fulbright was my transition from military to civilian. I know as military vets or academy grads, everyone has to go through that transition at some time. So for me, that was Fulbright because it provided a unique opportunity to engage with a very diverse group of civilian students. I would be attending events where we would have 80 different nationalities, and these are all students from across the globe and all have different perspectives, different problem-solving approaches. So engaging with them and seeing their value sets, how they approach to global perspectives, global issues, and life in general. And finally, getting exposure to, I would say, practicality of professions outside of the Army. So like people are busy in healthcare sector, energy, economy, philosophy, arts. So yeah, engaging with them. And then the scholarship also entailed two years of graduate school, which helped a lot to me grow professionally. So yeah, over and all, great program, and I'm so glad I was able to do it.
What was the field of focus when you're doing the scholarship for the Fulbright? In terms of, did you get further into double E or did you get into a different?
Oh, I did further into double E because okay. I've been a committed double E sort of enthusiast. And I think I could touch upon this maybe at here. And a reason why is that, and this is important. So growing up in Afghanistan, we had unfortunately very poor education. I was attending one of the best schools that Afghanistan could offer in Kabul. And if I had that situation, imagine schools that were outside of Kabul. Our curriculum were decades old that had wasn't even near to addressing the modern demands of today. And so yeah, I mean, this is incredible. In my whole high school journey in Afghanistan, I went to a lab one day. And in that single day that we went to the lab, we didn't do any experiments. We just saw the lab. It was a geology lab, so we saw some minerals. Imagine this, Afghanistan is one of the richest countries in minerals, yet we didn't have a lab to learn about the minerals that our country could offer. So I think growing up, this void of not having opportunity to pursue education, I think just was in me. And then when I came to West Point, I just jumped in like, oh, now I have opportunities, so let me do a double E. And then I think it continued to me like when I went to grad school again. So yeah, it was, I guess I had a huge motivation to uh, bridge this knowledge gap that I had. And yeah.
Okay, so let's fast forward to August 2021, a date that is seared in both of our minds and memories for very specific and personal reasons. And it's the date that the U.S. withdrew the army from Afghanistan. And there's a lot of chaos that's happening during this time frame and things that are leading up to it and actually on the departure. Could you walk us through this moment leading up to you evacuating and kind of sharing more about your escape with your family?
Sure, yeah, definitely. So, talking a little bit generally on a country level, we all knew, those of us living inside the country and people abroad, that situation is getting critical, and everyone was tracking that. But the day of August 15, when the government fell, that day we all woke up and just go about our work. I was at a time working from home for the World Bank, so I woke up and got into my computer and doing my work, and my brother and other family members left for work. So it took us by surprise that Kabul will fall that day. Nobody had anticipated that, and that was the main contributor of the chaos that erupted. Like in a way, all the experts, policy, military, everyone missed that, and so August 15 happens. So during this time, I was in contact with you and all the other classmates, and you all have reached out to me asking how am I doing. So we were talking back and forth, observing the situation. But then when August 15 happened, we all knew, well, it happened, and then it was all about how to get to safety. For me, watching it unfold in front of my eyes, it took everyone by shock, and for me as well. But I think, reflecting back, all these trainings and instincts kicked in, and it was all about, okay, how can I get myself and my family to safety? And I'm grateful for you and all our classmates who, as these events started in Afghanistan, you all were all glued into your cell phones and computers and providing support from there. And it took me 2 days to navigate getting to the airport. We went inside the airport, then were kicked out of the airport, then went ahead and we then eventually got in again and boarded one of the flights. I'm grateful for my family. We are a very close-knit family. All my siblings, we live together in the same house. So quick cultural in Afghanistan, families live together and until you marry, and even some families opt in to live together after marriage. So it's always a very strong family bond, and it helped a lot during that event, because as my family was expecting me to lead them every step of the way, at the same time I could rely to them, because we were all on the same page and knowing what's at risk and how to tactically move, whether it was going to U.S. Embassy on that evening, finding that the embassy is closed, there's no support, and trying to get into the airport. So yeah, a very challenging phase that me and my family and many others went through it. But again, the support of friends played a huge role there. And one theme that emerged for me was trust. And you alluded to this earlier, as we struggled at West Point, those bonds that were developed. And when I talked to you guys during those days, it almost like I was talking to a brother. So that trust was already there, and it was just like how to get this problem resolved. And finally, I also did this evacuation with my best friend and classmate, Nakib Mirzada. He was my classmate at the Afghan Academy. We spent 2 years there. Then He not in our class, but he was class of 2017 at West Point. So we spent a lot of time with him at West Point, and both of us, he and both of us and our families, sort of did winter evacuation together. So that was another huge help. There were two of West Point grads, so we shared our brain and knowledge and tactical expertise and navigated that situation.
What did it look like on the ground on the day of the 15th in terms of leaving your homes, figuring out what to bring with you, and then navigating through the crowds and actually figuring out which gate do I go to, which checkpoints do I avoid, how do I know who's who?
Yeah, and I've said this before. That day, I was telling myself, like, I think movies are real. I mean, I've only seen these events in movies, and then I suddenly found myself going. It felt like a movie scene. It was not nothing. No aspect of it was real at all because there was a total chaos and anarchy in the city. Nobody knew who was in charge, and leaving your home was full of risk, especially if you had connection with the military. And for me to leave home and get my family to enter the airport, I had to carry my West Point ring, which my siblings started calling the magical shiny ring because this allowed me to prove that I'm a West Point grad and get entry to the airport. But I was carrying my diploma, my transcripts, and all other IDs to prove. And then you're leaving home with the Taliban taking full control of the city. So how would you navigate from your home to the airport? Yeah, it was a total chaos. But again, the great help that we received from all friends who were in the States, and also those amazing, incredible American men and women in uniform that were at the airport. They did such an amazing work. And unfortunately, in the days afterwards, that suicide incident happened at the airport, and 13 service members gave the ultimate prize. But it was incredible to see their resilience that despite of, for them, all Afghans were strangers. Why were they in any obligation to help them? Yet you would see that they were willing to do anything to get people to safety. So yeah, it was both very shocking and sad events at the same time. I mean, out of those sadness and darkness, you would see this courage and this true acts of honor at the same time. So it was incredible to observe that.
Yeah, it was a wild time. I mean, whether folks that were helping out, that were on site, on the ground, or folks that were back at home and they were just, like you said, glued to the screens and trying to navigate and find resources to kind of help more people escape the country during that dire time. Could you share with us then what happened after you got to the airport, get into a C-130? What was that process like, coming to the U.S.? Because I'm sure it wasn't just a straight flight over and just ending up in Maryland. I'm sure there was a process in between.
Oh yeah, exactly. There was a process when we boarded that C13?
C-130.
C-130, yeah. Yeah, then we flew to Doha, Qatar. We stayed there for 2 to 3 days to do processing from State Department, and then we flew to the flight first flew from Doha, Qatar to DC, but then from DC we flew again on C-130 to Fort Bliss, Texas, and there we spent about 2 months to do further immigration processing and medical checkups. So yeah, it was pretty hectic, but honestly, that moment, and I've said this before, when I was entering the airport, there was just this metal cage, just a couple feet across were the American forces, and I was on this side, and it was this struggle of getting on the other side in all the crowd. But the moment that I crossed that, me and my family, we were it just instantly felt safe and felt different. And no matter what other processes were on the other side, at least we were sure that we were in safety. And again, that just, to me, that comes back to me spending time in this country, knowing the values of, especially in the military, the values, the care that everyone has for how the military cares for civilian, no matter if it's American citizens or any other citizens, and this attitude of the U.S. military abroad. So yeah, for me, I felt that, and then it was just a matter of going through the process, and there was no problem doing
Wow.
that.
Well, today we're here in DC, and you're now living in the US for the last 3 years. How has life been adjusting to living here in the States, and what are your hopes for the future?
Yeah, it's interesting. Adjustment is not a short or easy process. It is a long process for an immigrant family at this time, and I'm sure it was challenging throughout decades. People who have immigrated to this country, but my siblings are doing great. I have 5 younger siblings. The youngest are in high school. They're doing great academically. My 2 sisters, they have jobs. My brother Shahir, who was running a family business in Afghanistan, has started a family business here. So that is incredible. Although the journey is long, when you come first to this country, there's just so many things to do, like insurance, like medical, like paperwork. And we also had to still navigate immigration paperwork. We applied for asylum, and thankfully we've all been granted asylum. So next steps are to apply for a green card, and eventually someday, it's going to be a long journey, but someday American citizen. So yeah, although there's still a lot of work for us as a family to do to fully find ourselves settled in, but we are happy with the progress, and the hope is that sooner the better we would become the people who could give back to the community, or who could help the next generation of immigrants. So yeah, our aspiration, our hope is how quickly and how soon we could start giving back to the community, whether it's the family business that we're working on, whether including myself, my siblings, doing our work. So yeah, it's incredible and busy, but we are enjoying it, and we are blessed to be here. And again, throughout the whole process, it's all about the friends who are supporting us every step of the way, whether it was, and we could not have resettled in Maryland by ourselves. Like how would I navigate getting an apartment without a credit history, or buying a car and managing everything and furnishing furnitures? We only came with a backpack, but the friends, both from West Point and mentors, they answered every call of support, and have always been generous, and that allowed us to stand on our feet and do good.
When you look back at this entire journey, what immediate thoughts come to mind in terms of how things have unfolded, but also where you ended up?
Sure. Are you referring to
Just your entire
Afghanistan?
journey.
Okay.
Your entire journey. Yeah, from the start.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is. Gosh, that's a great question, Tuan. It's a unique journey. I never thought that I would go through this much unique journey. As a kid growing up in Afghanistan, I had aspiration to first join the military and serve my country, and then some aspiration to go abroad and see the world and study. But I've never thought that I would go to West Point and come back, do grad school, go back, help in the development of Afghanistan, work for the World Bank. When I finished grad school, went back to Afghanistan, I did try again to join the military, and this time I tried the Afghan National Police, the Ministry of Interior Affairs. I started doing volunteer work for them in the hope that I would be able to join in officially, but things unfortunately didn't work out again. But then I joined the World Bank, and that was incredible because there was a $50 million project, specifically for telecom, and this is my interest area. So I was fully vested in. I was so excited, and I wish the events of 2021. I mean, everyone wishes that hadn't happened. I wish there was a peaceful transition between the opposing party, the Taliban, and the government republic. That was everyone's hope. Had we achieved that, things would have been better for the country, and I could have continued working for the World Bank there and played help a lot to develop the country. But I would say there's the hope still. We always have hope. Hope will still prevail. Thinking about despite the situation is still very dire in Afghanistan, especially Afghan allies who are still stuck in there. And I know the volunteer groups here, everyone is still working very hard around the clock to get them to safety. And I hope all those efforts take place and happen. For the country in general, despite dire situation, especially the women education, as you know, girls are barred from school beyond 6th grade. There's no country on the face of this planet that has this restriction. It is unimaginable. But still, the fight has stopped in the country. At least there's no bloodshed, there's no conflict. There has been some improvement in security for the civilians, for the public, for those who didn't have any affiliation with the military. So the hope is for the country to navigate itself in a course towards justice, towards opportunity for all, and something that allows the civilian population to have a decent life in the country and have the liberties that they deserve. And I think we will all Afghans and friends of Afghans, people like you and all our friends, we're all committed to that cause, and we will find a way to help that in the coming years.
You're hopeful about the future.
Yeah.
I ask this question on every single episode just to kind of round out the interview. What's your definition of success? And do you feel like you've achieved that definition?
Yeah. So when I think about success, I think of it as a journey. And for me personally, I'm successful when I am happy and content about my performance. So obviously there are times where that happens, whether it's completing West Point, whether it's getting a scholarship and completing grad school, working at the World Bank, at a global institution, and so on. Those are events of successful. But then this success never stays on that path. So you would be successful, then there's always that downward trend that you could be unsuccessful for a time. So in that regard, this, for me, my thought is that this continues for our lifetime. There are times that we are successful, and during those times we need to make sure we are humble, and we need to increase that time that we are on upward slope. And when it comes that it's a downward slope, something happens in career, in life, that we are not successful, we need to be resilient and get help soon from friends and mentors, get advice, whether it's career, to get back on that upward trajectory. So, and in that regard, the full success would never happen, and I'm fully okay with that. Actually, I really like Matthew McConaughey's speech on his Oscar, that he said he gave a great speech, and I cannot quote it, it's long, but he said he always pursues his future himself, and he will never achieve that person. He think of himself in 5 and 10 years, but he is continuing achieving that. And I think in that the journey itself is enjoyable, and we should just enjoy the journey. Full success may never happen, but we will just pursue that goal. It's great to have that goal in life.
Wow, one of the best responses I've heard to that question. Shabir, I want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. We're incredibly honored to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Great talking to you, and thank you for allowing me to share my story.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Shabir.
Thanks.